And I'm going to open Ashlyn Jasmine with a question about the historical background for the Juneteenth holiday. If you tell us a little bit about that, we'd appreciate learning.
Of course. So what I have really is I wrote, not a lot of people know about the part with Major General Gordon Granger, I think that's pronounced, and how it began with like his announcement to the people of Texas during the war. So basically I have the quote for the troops. So I have the quote here. I'm going to read for you guys. So the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. And that were the general orders number 3 is what they're called, from the headquarters district of Texas in Galveston on the 19th of 1865. So that's usually the date that everyone, celebrates. In 1865, we say that's the day that the slaves were told that they were free. However, of course, because a lot of the slave masters weren't not having that, and it was not a understood term, like freed slave, like what? Like I have to just let them go? Of course. So that there was a lot of murders, there were a lot of deaths. It was a fight, like it was a hard day. It wasn't just, woo, yay, we can run away. It wasn't like that. But the next year, they would say September 1865 is when it started to get less chaotic as it was at like the initial announcement. And that was September 1865, as I said, and mostly due to the Freedmen's Bureau, which really helped out. And then that's when that year, June 1866, is when everyone really could feel celebratory and actually be like, oh, last year was the day that, this is the anniversary, we're free. At the time we had additional announcements, obviously with the fight for those couple months, but that was the day in 1866 that we were able to celebrate. So Juneteenth is really, June 19th combined. Not a lot of people know that either, just a fun fact. And then the colors of the flag are red, white, and blue. I just wanted to say that a lot of people get confused with the Black nationalist flag, which is red, green, and black, I believe. And yeah, that's what I have right now.
Okay, and then the holiday, it's got this odd quality because the Emancipation Proclamation was from 1862, and those enslaved people in Texas didn't find out that they had officially been liberated until after the Civil War had been fought out, and the news came in 1865. And the holiday was celebrated mostly in Texas for a lot of decades. And then obviously there wasn't a lot to celebrate for a lot of Black people in America for a long time after Reconstruction.
Right.
And it's really much more recently, I think, that the holidays really started to spread. When did you guys start to celebrate it? Did you celebrate it with your families as kids or more recently?
It was something I didn't learn about until a few years ago, because one, it's not widely known, and so it's not being taught in schools. Like I didn't learn about it in school, and I didn't grow up in a culturally like diverse community where it would be known. So I learned about it through social media, and I took like a personal day to celebrate it. And then it wasn't until Jasmine and I's like actual event that I actually celebrated from the by the meaning of the word celebration.
Yeah, agreed. Juneteenth is mostly celebrated in the South. A lot like around here,
Right.
A lot of people really didn't celebrate it until like recently, which is really a great thing. I didn't celebrate with my family per se, but I did know about it obviously through like NAACP, and because they would have events or
Right.
but actually celebrating it and actually getting people together and saying this is Juneteenth, let's all hang out, let's celebrate it, let's that's different, and I'm really excited that we're able to do that.
Yeah, it sounds great. It does have a bittersweet quality, though, that emancipation did not really lead to liberty. It did not lead to equality.
Mhm.
Do you guys feel that as you plan your celebration? Do you balance joy and sorrow in your celebration?
Are you asking you an answer or?
Sure. I mean, it definitely is bittersweet having to put it together because it's also a reminder that we had to be free in the first place, that we were enslaved and we had to endure all the pain of all these years. I think every movement with including Black lives can be very bittersweet, that we every step forward is also a reminder of why we're taking a step forward. But celebrating it and bringing it light and putting it into a happy place makes it it turns more into that sweet quality. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. I agree. Bittersweet, but has to get done.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you've got this celebration planned to take place at the Perkins Center. You did it
Mhm.
last year,
Mhm.
doing it again this year. So it worked out okay last year despite the pandemic.
Mhm.
What have you got lined up for us? There's I can't remember who suggested this, but that the holiday should be a time to celebrate, educate, and agitate.
Mhm.
Are you going to be doing all three, or is it just a matter of sweet potato pie and
Uh,
a
do-
lot of
do I-
singing? A lot of singing.
I would say no. I mean, I'd say we do all three pretty well because we have, performances, we have musicians, but then we don't stray away from the education part. We have like speakers that are coming out and educating the audience and talking about Juneteenth in general. Other programs that are going to get up and talk about what they do for the Black community. And I think, I don't know, I think we really touch all bases with this event, to be honest. It's a celebratory, but also don't forget, don't forget what it is. Don't forget what it means.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the highlights of some of the vendors, artists, musicians that you have coming up? What should we be looking forward to the most?
Ooh, well, last year we had a live performance. Did we have just one
One
musician?
Mhm.
Yeah, we only had one musician, and his name was Rostaf, and we had met him at a rally in Paramus. And Jasmine and I were up there speaking, and we saw him and he was performing, and he asked us to help him perform and like help him like hold his mic and stuff. And we just knew, we just looked at each other and we're like, we need this guy. Like, this guy is amazing. He was amazing. If you attended last year, you could just see he brought so much light to the crowd. So he's gonna be back. And we have so many more, like we have a gospel choir, we have other artists. Jasmine has family members that she's inviting, and it's a big step up from last year with just music, performance, speakers. We have I know Karen Reiner from More Unity suggested we have Marvin Walker, who's giving you guys a talk on the 17th. He's going to be there as well speaking. It's going to be it's bigger than last year, and it's really exciting. Yeah.
And will there be sweet potato pie?
I don't know yet. I don't know. We have vendors that want to bring food, but I don't know if they'll highlight sweet potato pie. That would be amazing if they did.
Okay, because if you make it yourself, it takes a lot of straining, which is very irritating.
It does.
I am also wondering about the events you've organized in the past. Jasmine, you and your friend Jessica brought together the Black Lives Matter march that went through Moorestown last year with a great cast of speakers. You and Ashlyn both worked on the teach-in that happened around the Moorestown Public Schools that helped to inspire the folks in Moray to take action with really trying to enhance racial equality, racial justice in the school system here. What have you guys been learning? What have you been encountering as you engage with this activism? Is this something that you expected for yourself? You mentioned the NAACP, Jasmine. Was that something you've been involved with for a while?
Yes. So my family, like for as long as I've known, they've always been really active, whether that be within the community, within the Black community, within the family, within, you know, my school. And I don't know, always just seeing them just really passionate and like working with the community and working with people has always just made me want to work with people. And just the time last year, like during, you know, June, May, June, that whole time, the summer, just being stuck in my room and forced to just see, you know, just murders of Black people, and people fighting for people my age, fighting for other Black people, and then getting killed, you know what I mean? And it was just like, it was anxiety inducing, just sitting there and watching it, and then, you know, being stuck inside it. I couldn't do it. So it was just talking to like-minded people and being honest about how we feel and honest about, okay, well, what can we do? Like, do it? Do we just do it? Like, so that's what it was. Honestly, to get rid of that like feeling, to get rid of we're not doing anything, we just did something, you know what I mean? So starting that off was honestly like, it was a lot. At first it was just, you know, it was exciting, it was thrilling, only because we felt like finally like we can do something, and finally we're putting what we've always said we wanted to do like into action, like we you know, but it was also scary because there were sides of it that like I've only heard about and I've never seen in like, to me, like being in front of like the words that were being spoken about the event, or about me and my co-organizer for the event. You know, like we had Facebook group chats full of parents like calling us like calling us things, and like calling the event like a setup, or like threatening us, like threatening like you know, our life. Like it was a lot. And honestly, it was to just see that like, cool, like I was like, wow, this is it just made it real. It just made it so like real. But I don't know, that night before it was insane. Like I couldn't sleep, both of us didn't sleep. But that day that happened, like the next day was June 2nd, was just like, it made up for all of the nervous feelings. It made up for all the tears, you know, we crying because we were afraid, you know, if we'd live, like, you know what I mean? Or we didn't know what was going to happen at the project. That day made up for everything. Like just to hear everyone, see everyone just there with us, and there for the same reasons, chanting the same words on the same streets of Moorestown. Like this like, I don't know, it made me like, it was just a really emotional day. Like the light and the love, it just can't be like replaced or changed. Like that was beautiful, you know, like that was real. And just seeing that was like it was a click. I was like, oh, I'm not stopping. like we can keep doing that. If we can keep causing this emotion, if we can get, I'm not stopping. We're not stopping, you know? Sorry, that was a lot.
Your emotion comes through very clearly, and it was really surprising to see some of the pushback from people who, you know, we probably know better now what kind of information is filtering through according to which information stream you feed from. But you very consistently kept the communications around the march, or at least around the idea that this event is about love. And you kept using that word love over and over. And I think that was really inspiring for me. I know several other people on the call tonight were at that event. And we talked about it a good bit in our group afterwards, and how very impressed we were with what you pulled together.
Oh, that makes my heart feel sad.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through everything that you did for that event. But thank you very much for undertaking the work.
It was all of us. That was all of us.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
That's the event that Jasmine and I actually met, like personally. We met at that, and it was just straightforward from there. I managed, like, I don't even know how I did it, because I managed to find myself at the front with them, and I felt so empowered, and we were all chanting the same words, and we were crying, and it was after the fact, like we knew that we just had to keep going. Like I wanted to be a part of whatever was going on, and I wanted to feel like I could make a mark being a Black woman in Moorestown, you know.
Exactly.
Well, you are definitely making some marks. And I'm wondering whether um, whether faith, whether religion or spiritual journey have been part of what's brought you to this place and is leading you on.
Definitely. I think Jasmine and I are both very spiritual people. We connected on a lot of spiritual levels. And when you have that inside of you, the faith, the humanity for people, it almost comes naturally to do this type of stuff. It almost comes like it's innate to do the right thing, to speak out against anti-racism and make sure you're promoting justice and everything in between. It definitely comes naturally, and we do this so that other people can experience the same things and to feel like they have a place, to feel welcome, to feel happy, and all of that. Yeah, it definitely is spiritually. It comes, it does come out. Yeah.
Agreed. It plays a really large part in everything that we do, really, like, and how we think in normal days. And if we're not talking about politics or talking about injustice, or not, it's us in spirit, really.
Yes.
Personally, like, I just feel like if we're not all okay, if we're not all good, if someone is being denied of a full happy human life, if someone is not experienced, then we're not good. It's a team,
Right.
and it's all of us together, really.
Right. We are light, all of us. Yes.
Oh.
The phrase "the light" is a very usual one in Quaker faith or worship, that we hold each other in the light.
Right.
And you've talked a little bit about some of this, but I'd love to hear you say more about the challenges that you faced, maybe one or two that took you by surprise or that required some really creative problem solving.
Is this like requiring events or something like that, or
Anywhere along the journey to bringing your message to a broader public?
yeah. Any like challenge?
I think just getting the pushback from the community,
Yeah.
and getting the people who weren't educated and the people who weren't open to learning, especially being that it's in our town, was really scary for us, knowing that there are people that aren't on our side, that could.
To be maybe a little more explicit, I think when you were organizing some of these events, there was chatter on some message groups that these events would be violent, that this was a cover for something bad happening, that people
right. Yeah.
Which
they
never came close.
They made it
to
seem
happening.
like they made it seem like it was going to be something terrible, that we were gonna, what did they say, break into more Main Street and loot and steal and break and shoot and kill and do everything in between, when Jasmine made clear that, like, it was about love and peace and prosperity and all of that in between. So getting the pushback of them not getting the message and turning it into something violent and preventing more people to come and spread the word, that was another thing. Getting that, them putting that out there and on social media sites and all of that, it wasn't, they prevented a lot that people from coming and learning what was supposed to be made.
Actually, I forgot about that. That was a very that is number one for me, because there was a lot of people, emailing us afterwards or like trying to contact
the
us.
Superintendent,
but like really upset they didn't come because they were
the superintendent wouldn't come. The superintendent of Moorestown didn't come. There was a lot of people that didn't attend because of what was being said on social media, and that was a challenge because those things need to be heard. Those people need to hear these things.
That was a really big one. I forgot. And I think like communication too, that was because of the time period and because other protest, like people just like to put other situations on present ones when they don't have to have really anything to do with each other or have the same outcome.
Right.
That like the communication and just having to make sure that we tell everyone that we talk to about the process, that everyone has the same information at all times. That was a really big thing, because if they didn't, then they would think that we're trying to do something. You know what I mean? So that was
Right.
I think it's interesting. Our committee, right, at Moorestown meeting received a letter from a citizen in Moorestown that was quite long, quite detailed, expressing this person's dissatisfaction with the fact that we had a Black Lives Matter sign outside of the meeting house. And we've had several Black Lives Matter signs outside of our meeting house, and all of them have vanished at various points. So I think
One of them got blown down in a storm.
So some storm and some missing. But that's been something that, we, right, and obviously Moorestown is majority white and our committee is majority white. So there's we're trying to negotiate how we ourselves respond to that.
Right.
And obviously coming from places of privilege, I think for white people, there's more opportunity or should be more onus to educate other white people. So it's not the job
Right.
of people of color or
Right.
right. Where do you guys see the work of various members of the community? Do you think where do you guys, and maybe I'm not making any sense, but if you guys, right, and this is just personal opinion and whatever, but who should be doing what's worthwhile, what makes sense, based on people's backgrounds and experiences?
Do you want to answer first, Ashlyn?
You can go. I want to think about this one.
That's a good question. Okay, so I would say, you mean roles, kind of?
Sure. And I don't want to say responsibilities, because I think it should be on everyone's own plate to educate themselves. And right, some people won't. And right, I think it's for us also, it's where do we draw the line of we need to put our time and energy into more effective means of broader education or visibility, right? That should be important to us. And that's but yeah, I don't know who does what, right? And where does it step on people's toes and where is it not people's place? And that depends on anyone's opinion. But what are your opinions?
Okay, so I think personally, you said, step on people's toes. That I think a lot of people are too worried sometimes about stepping on other people's toes. They're scared about using their own space. And I think it's really important that everyone individually sees their experiences and sees, the people. Okay, so I guess I would say go from self, home, environment. So where you see yourself and where you see that you are within you, what makes you passionate and what things that are happening right now socially or whatever, there's a lot happening, you can choose one. And what in those things do you feel a place in? You know what I mean? I think it's about expanding there, learning as much as you can, with you, and then expanding to your home and be hey guys, I've learned something. I think this is what I'm passionate about. I think this is what I want to do. I think this is who I want to help. I think this is where I feel the most passionate. What about you guys? This is what I've learned. What about what do you guys know? You know what I mean? And then just kind of expand that to your environment. Because once the home and self is centered like that, then you'll move anywhere like that. You'll go to school and then suddenly certain things look weird or look a little different because you had a space in yourself to have some conversations, in a space with your family to have other conversations. You know what I mean? It just so you bring those conversations to those environments. You educate more people in that way, and then from there maybe build a team or build other like-minded individuals and that you are interested in, or in that you feel the most secure and the most educated in. I don't know. I feel once you go from self-home environment, I feel that could answer that question a little bit. I don't know if I answered it well, but that's how I feel. Because that's what I did,
I think a lot of places in Moorestown where there's a lot of diversity can be used for education on these types of topics, and not to be afraid of them. I feel like exactly what Moorestown Friends Meeting is doing is great, like having these talks and having these I don't think it's stepping on anybody's toes, but there's some people that you don't want to hear from almost. We had a meeting with the mayor, and she had pointed out, she was like, when you're hosting these events, a lot of these people don't want to hear from a lot of politicians, and a lot of these people don't want to hear from higher ups. They want to hear from people who have actually been through this type of stuff, who have experienced these types of issues and everything. So it just comes to a place of finding those things in yourself when you, just like Jasmine said, if you are a person of color, or if you know people of color, family members, friends, anything, who have had these experiences, and to bring it up, just as she said, self-home environment. But like a lot of higher up than politicians, we don't want to hear from them. We don't want to, yeah.
Especially, I think that phrase, especially right now though, because it's okay, we see what was done, and now the people need to talk. Now we all need to just have a conversation. Now we all need to just come together. What did you guys learn? What did I learn? Let's bring that together,
Absolutely, yeah. And thank you. That's really important.
So how do you create those opportunities to talk? How do you create those opportunities to talk within a community that is pretty separated?
Right.
How those it's kind of awkward.
Yeah,
right?
it is awkward, but it needs to be done. Finding comfortability to and being even uncomfortable is good. They say it, uncomfortable is good to. And if it's uncomfortable to talk to these people, you have to, what I've noticed I'm a Moorestown resident for 3 years now, you have to know you have to have some connections. You have to, find people that can help you so that you don't go misunderstood or misheard. But it definitely starts with being uncomfortable and wanting to start these discussions, because once you have the want to, it will come definitely.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly, the want to is important, because you don't have to force these sort of conversations, but when they happen, you're not going to shy away from them. I think that's the important
right.
Remember.
And I know you guys have had conversations with the mayor, you've had conversations with the chief of police, you've talked to our state senator and our representative in Congress, and would those count amongst some of your great triumphs in your activism, or what would you share with us of moments that really made it feel all worthwhile?
I would definitely say having those, especially Andy Kim and Senator Singleton being a part of what we do, and I think having people notice, and even just having people support is a triumph for me. Even having people, register for a ticket for Juneteenth is a triumph. Getting that validation and confirmation that people are interested and people do want to learn more and people do want to celebrate with us, and everything in between. And if we want to mention what the mayor wants to do, that's a triumph as well. Jasmine, if you want to say.
Are we going to mention it?
Yeah, we can. I told Elizabeth about it before, but yeah.
Are we going to say it right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this is, I think, one of the biggest ones is now.
Yeah, this is the biggest one so far.
Yeah, Juneteenth in Moorestown, the celebration now is, we're getting it proclamated on the day. I'm so excited. That's a really big annual now.
So it's going to be celebrated every year now. And
so the mayor of Moorestown is issuing a proclamation in celebration of Juneteenth for you.
Yes. And so it's going to be widely celebrated or encouraged to be widely celebrated in Moorestown each year
Yeah.
on June 19th.
And I would say another one too is the networking as well. Like in so with Andy Kim, that was it last year. After the protest, he came up and he was like, "Okay, like look, I'm forming a group with a bunch of other South Jersey activists that are around your age, and we're just gonna get together and we're gonna work, like, and we're gonna work." And I was like, "Okay, like that's great." And those have been some of the most like the useful and like most supporting people I've ever in my life. Like they've helped with other events. I've helped them with other events. They've invited me to things, you know, like helped educate me and other. It was just it's an amazing experience, to be honest. And meeting like-minded people my age doing the same thing. You know what I mean? It's beautiful. It's so fun.
That is fantastic. Congratulations, you guys. You've really earned it. I hope you know that. Our meeting, you probably know of the big Moorestown Meeting House right on Main Street. And we'd be very interested in learning if there are ways that we can support you, whether they're very practical, like More Unity has said when things start opening up a little bit more, if we can use space to hold our meetings.
Right.
If there are ways like that that we can support you, we'd love to know about them. Do you think of any?
Yeah, I
off the
think
top of your head?
definitely when we move forward, I think Jasmine and I want to have more events, more talks close together, you know, not so far like, okay, Juneteenth, now let's plan for a big celebration, even just a small get together like this to talk about something smaller, you know. I think definitely like space wise, people, networking, I think we'd definitely be interested in being with Moorestown Friends meeting. Yeah.
And yeah, we're actually can I say that too? We're creating, we're in like the beginning stages of creating an organization like for this kind of stuff specifically. But you know, not just in the Moorestown area, like we're making sure that this is an organization that's going to be around. But that would, like, working with Moorestown Quaker meeting, that would be 100% so useful, especially like with what who the Quakers are, what you guys stand for. Like, yes, please, yes, plees. Especially if they're on Main Street, like we're gonna be in contact 100%.
Wonderful. Well, we'll look forward to that. We're also looking forward, in 2 weeks, we'll have our next Let's Talk session. We're doing these twice a month. And as we come into summer, we're mellowing out a little bit, and we're going to do Let's Talk about recommended reads and watches and listens. So I might be recommending the movie Blind Spotting, which I love deliriously. Lil has got a YouTube video about the false equation, a speaker arguing a false equation between violence against human beings and violence against property, that she found really moving. I know Ben's lining something up. What do you guys, what do you think everybody should read or watch or listen to help them understand better what race is today and what it could be in America?
There's this audio series by the New York Times. It's called 1619. And it's basically about Black people building American democracy and influencing music, wealth, and more. There's an author, Angie Thomas, if you're targeting to young audiences, younger, who she's written The Hate U Give. What else? Dear Martin, Concrete Rose. Those are all books about racial injustice in younger teens, which is great. And then for older or adults, White Fragility. I think we've all heard of that one. And then Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi is a good one.
I'm more of a podcaster. Yeah, I love a podcast. She's got Drive, Shirley McAlpine. I think that's her last name. I'm not sure, but she's got Drive. I know that's the name. And then Okay Now Listen. I'm obsessed with it. That's Sylvia Obel, I think, and then Scotty Bean. I hope this is right. Those names are 100%. And then this is a suggestion out of someone that I know, Seen on Radio, season 2, Seeing White. I heard a little bit of the beginning and I already was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this. So I would definitely say that one. And then you said like half the books I said already. Of course.
Yeah. There's also another one. It's called Why Do Black Kids Sit at the Same Lunch Table in the Cafeteria? That one's a good one as well. Yeah.
Who's that by?
It is by Beverly Daniel Tatum.
She's actually.
I've
she's
read
got-
parts of that. Sorry.
It's really good.
Did you like it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I read it when I was a college student, and it made me think a lot about where I sat in the cafeteria, as well as where other people sat too.
Right.
Just ongoing thoughts about how do we choose where we sit when we go to a casual cafeteria. And it just seems like an automatic, but
Right.
I tend to probably sit with people that look like me. And why is that? And so, yes, I just wanted to respond because I'm familiar with that particular, that book.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Beverly Tatum's
And
done
can I
some- Yes,
can I
please.
co-sign the Scene on Radio, Seeing White? That's
said that
season 2. And season 3 I think is on gender, and season 4 is on American democracy. It's a really good podcast. I mean, the first one is kind of like a bunch of different topics, but seasons 2, 3, and 4, I mean, they're just phenomenal.
Do you have any books?
I second that one. I'm sorry.
I know you have
Books,
good.
yes, I do. Yeah. But it's your show. I'm sorry, I'm Jasmine's mother and also an attender. I'm trying to be quiet though. I'm gonna tell you, it was the hardest thing in the world to be quiet, but I think I did okay.
And actually, we're moving now into the part where we're going to spend maybe 10 minutes or so opening the floor up to people asking their own questions. And some of you are just meeting these young women for the first time, and maybe you want to know more about their backgrounds. Maybe you want to ask about something that they said here today, or maybe you have your own favorite in lieu of my sweet potato pie that you would like to lobby for. Oh, and one of you guys should put the link in the chat if you could for how to get the tickets, because
Sure,
people
of
do
course,
have
I'll
to.
do-
Yeah, people do have to reserve a space for the Juneteenth celebration. There's no charge, but there is a cap on attendance, so you got to pre-register.
I will
Um,
do that right now.
Fantastic. Does anybody have questions or thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go first. So you guys are like fairly recent high school graduates, right?
I graduated in 2018.
Okay.
And I graduated in 2019. Yeah.
You were talking about finding yourself, finding your home, and then the expansion of that. And I think one of the things that I've had trouble expanding to is in school, because I just don't know where to start, I think. And of course, nobody at school is helpful for helping you figure
Right.
out where to start either. So I don't know if you guys want to like talk about your school time a little bit, and then any suggestions that you might have.
Jasmine, you went to Moorestown High School, which is where Emily is now.
So Moorestown High School.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. Like honestly, I felt extremely lost in high school. Like I felt very lost. But what helped was outside organizations, outside clubs, or outside situations that like I can really be all the way into without feeling anyone, you know what I mean? The noise and like feeling other people's judgments or feeling other people's weirdness or feeling, you know what I mean? Just finding my people. Cause I know it's hard. Like sometimes in school, like, you know, you're just placed in this place with a bunch of people, you know what I mean? By chance. But if you seek out the places that you feel more confident in, that you want to, you know, learn more about, like stuff like that, you know, like, I think that once you grow in those environments, you won't feel as uncomfortable in school, or like you can easily just bring that to situations without even thinking twice about it. You know what I mean? Because it was really hard for me to grow the thoughts I have now while I was in school and in the walls, but like when I could leave and completely think for myself and completely be passionate about what I wanted to be passionate about, it made school and it made bringing that into school way easier. I don't know if that was a good explanation, but.
No, I get it.
Ashley?
Oh, sorry. I didn't go to Moorestown, but I have a younger brother who is going to WAMS right now. And I always found it helpful for myself to find a favorite adult. I feel like every kid in school has their favorite teacher, favorite counselor. Mine was my English teacher, and finding those connections and those people in power in school, and they'll be able to give you the confidence you need, the confidence you might want or need to do to feel comfortable to speak about certain things or to take action. My English teacher was super helpful. I was experiencing some certain things, and being able to talk to somebody like that was great. Yeah.
And then, like, kind of along the same lines, like, all of my, this is gonna sound really ignorant, but all of my friends are people of color, and we talk about this stuff all the time, and I feel very
Right.
lucky that they're comfortable talking to me about that.
Right.
But I know they don't tell me everything, and I know that's okay because I'm totally fine with that. But sometimes I don't know how to help them at school because they don't tell me everything. So, was there anything that was helpful that like you think would be helpful?
Personally, when I went to Moorestown, I only had white friends. For like, seriously, I only had white friends. And the ones that I would notice would be aware of the fact that I have completely other, like, a different experience than you guys right now. Like, I have those were the ones that I know for a fact when I was in social situations, or when it's so hard to explain Moorestown High School because there's a way of feeling like you're included, but just very not. So it's really hard to kind of, balance that. But I would say the ones that, like, really would point it out and be like, hey, Jazz, are you good? It would be in situations where I would be in a room with all white people. You know what I mean? So if you like are at a friend's house, if you're, in class, most of the time, honestly, it would be social situations because there are no teachers around, and kids feel like they can say whatever they want. So I think honestly, just being aware in social situations and ones that really only have other kids around, really, and specifically other white kids, because there was a way of feeling left out constantly. So I think just, being aware of that. And then also, I guess, this is such a hard, because I can't speak for all Black, you know what I mean, for all Black people. But personally, that was for me, social situations when people would notice, hey, you're being kind of isolated right now, or someone just said the N-word, that was weird, how are you doing? You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm noticing Francine and Laurie, who are both people who have raised activist kids. And I think Keo, maybe you as well, maybe some others that I don't know about. Do you want to say anything about how you supported your kids to be who they are today?
Huh?
You just support them being their own person. That's all you can do. You just support them being their own person and being as independent as possible in their thinking and living, which can be hard for a mom. It could be really hard, actually. Yeah. But they found their own way. And I think really, depending on the people, the people that they met, the adults that they met in meeting, and knowing their lives, was probably more than anything I did. Is that because, as a parent, you don't really count. It's the other adults that have an impact on your kids, I think, mostly. So they go off to FCNL and become interns. They go off anywhere in the world to do, development work. That's what they do. And if you've given them some grounding and surround them with people that are inspirational, they just do it.
I remember when this was right before the Black Lives Matter protest slash, I guess it was a protest, sort of kind of a rally. We were kind of watching the news, I think we were, and Jasmine was talking, I guess, to a friend, or she was talking about getting people together to go over to Philadelphia. And of course, this is all after, the George Floyd had been murdered in front of all of our eyes. She talked about going to Philadelphia and, and protesting there. And I think, because we have these discussions a lot around the house, different discussions. I said, what's so interesting is that people, from places like Moorestown or Cherry Hill, they go to Philadelphia and they agitate their police, and they get in their police face, and then they get to go home, and they've never said anything to the community that they live.
Exactly.
They never confront the people or the community or the police or whatever you never do it at home. And I said, I just feel some type of way of going to Philadelphia, agitating their police and leaving people there to deal with their police officers, and then you go home and you sleep. And then she called a friend and said, we're going to do something in Moorestown. I'm like, I'm having this conversation, and she said, I'm just going to tell my, she got on the phone, she called Jessica right away and said, we're going to do it here. And I'm like, well, that was a good thought, but I wasn't really suggesting to do it, because what happens is I go from, being sort of activist minded to then becoming a parent. It's not that I didn't want my child to have it. And I didn't. It's not that I didn't want it to happen to Moorestown. I just didn't want my child to do it. And it's not that I didn't want my child to do it. It was because I know what happens when you take a stand. I know what the pressures or the people, and especially in a place like Moorestown, right? So when she's getting together, and I try not to, offer too much advice. I think every once in a while, she would, I would just kind of not say too much until I felt like I could say something. You just not talk too much, because this is from her heart. But I would say that the day of the event, and I'm a very activist minded person. I was just so nervous, not just for her, and just because I know where her heart was. Her heart was, and she said it over and over again, it was love. It was, and I think remembering that love can also be sort of confrontational. You do things, you correct each other, you speak to each other. When you're hurt, you just speak still out of love, and I know that was her heart, and I was just hoping that everyone else knew that and understood that and would be part of that. But so I think it's you live your life as a parent, and then you have your conversations as a family, the self-home and environment model that you create, and then when your child does it, sometimes you just just like was said earlier, you hope that the other community people around her they're holding her up as well, and because mothers can't, we can only say so much. But
I
really like what you both said too, though, because I really agree. Like, oh, you're gonna make me cry, but she just always have been. I noticed this with my mom, but then also with other people that are doing what I am at this age and what Ashton is at this age, and it's just we have parents that are just like, okay, like that's what you want to do, okay, like it's like the support, just being there, just like telling your kid no, or telling them like that's someone that's your own fears, like what I mean, separating that from just separating what your kid wants to do, I think is just the biggest, what I mean, just saying your little supports. Your love, that's all.
I know we're running up on time, but I have one last question, and if it's worthwhile or takes too long, I'd love to talk about it later or another time. But and I guess it's kind of big, but obviously, right, last summer and being in the middle of a pandemic allowed kind of an overwhelming movement to develop and response to horrendous injustices that have been happening too long. Like, right, it was already too late, but it was a really important thing to happen. And I think a lot of people have been seeing, right, a year later, the atmosphere's changed, and right, now that people are being vaccinated and things are going back to normal, like the momentum has kind of been lost, I think, at least on kind of a national scale. Right. And it's really excellent that you guys are working with legislators. But even that sometimes, maybe I'm just being cynical, feels like topical or something. They're like, oh, well, this is what's happening. These are our constituents, and so we'll appease or something. How, like, yeah, what do you see the limitation? And maybe this is not something that should be recorded or something. It could be a different conversation later. But like, where do you see the limitations of working with legislators being, and like how do you keep momentum, and how do you, right, like as we mentioned this summer, we started a working group last June, exactly, and we've been running programming every single month, several times a month for over a year, but already we're seeing far less participation, and that's okay because weather's nice and hopefully people are getting outside. But right, like we want to keep people engaged. Like this conversation is not going away. Things haven't changed at all, even though Derek Chauvin was found guilty, right? Like, right, it's not over, and it's still relevant. So how, what are your thoughts on that?
Like, great. You want to go first, or that was a great comment. I'm excited. I'll answer this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm excited. That was a good question, because yeah, exactly. That's something that me and Ashton talk about all the time. Just making sure no one's coming in and just taking over, like, oh, so this is what we're doing now, like, okay, now we're gonna come in and set these rules over here, you know what I mean? I think honestly, working with legislators and working with people that up there and have, and it's mostly just to get it on paper and just to, you know what I mean? Just to make sure, okay, we worked for that. Okay, now it's on paper, but we can't forget about, the people that keep it up, the people that keep them up. That's everyone. That's all of us. So just, I think really like keeping events like Juneteenth and events where it's about the people, it's about supporting the businesses, it's about everything, we've been fighting for. I think just, that's really important. But as long as, we're getting stuff written on paper, what am I saying right now? As long as we are getting stuff written on paper, we are also focusing just on the community, because it's not just about that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's always a big worry that, we have these legislative people that we are working with that only are in it for image or just for a good look on their part. And we try to not work closely, but always get their opinion, and always, because they are with our community and they are with, our state and everything like that. But it's a worry, and we don't know the limits on how much we can work with them, and how much work will be done and will be progressive and keep going. Exactly. It's hard to tell, because most of them aren't people of color. Most of them they don't have these experiences that they can really feel the need to keep it going, So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
And I think working closely with people like Councilman Andy Kim and Troy Singleton, the ones that are like, because I know Andy Kim is really just talking to people. Like he's just out here on the streets, just walking around like
in Moorestown.
He's
In
great. I
Moorestown,
love it. Yeah. Working with people like him, that people that are very aware that it is a community thing and we're not stopping. I think those, focusing on, people like that.
Have you guys thought about inviting Andy Kim to the Juneteenth celebration?
He's coming.
He is. Yeah, he's coming.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I see him walking along Strawbridge Lake all the time. So I think he would automatically show up at something like this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he showed up at the protest, and he definitely is coming and speaking at Juneteenth, along with Senator Singleton and who else? We have Councilman Law coming.
Mayor Nicole Gillespie.
Mayor Nicole, yes.
Who else? I think that's
there's gonna be other Assemblywoman Murphy's gonna be in attendance. Right. There's gonna be a few people.
Yeah. Mm.
Suggest that we take another minute or two to sit in silence together and